Have you ever wondered how the American continent looked thousands of years ago? Let's take a journey back in time, to a period when vast glaciers stretched across the north and mammoths roamed the land. This was the stage for the arrival of the first peoples, who ventured into these uncharted territories via the Bering Land Bridge, a natural highway linking Asia to America. These early pioneers were the ancestors of a wonderfully diverse tapestry of cultures, languages, and societies that came to flourish across the continent. From the Inuit in the icy Arctic to the Hopi in the arid Southwest, each group adapted and thrived in their unique environments, developing distinct ways of life. They were hunters, gatherers, farmers, and fishermen, their lives intricately woven with the rhythms of the earth. These early societies were the building blocks of history, creating the foundation for the civilizations that would later rise and fall. As time passed, these early societies would pave the way for the complex civilizations that were to come. Imagine a time when mighty empires rose from the American soil. The Olmecs, considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, were the first to leave their mark. Rising in the tropical lowlands of south-central Mexico, they were monumental sculptors, carving colossal heads out of single basalt boulders. These intricate creations hint at a complex society, one that pioneered the first major Mesoamerican civilization. As the Olmecs faded, the Mayans ascended. Emerging from the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula, they were astronomers, mathematicians, and architects. They constructed sprawling cities, with towering pyramids piercing the jungle canopy. Their calendar system, accurate to within minutes over centuries, is a testament to their celestial mastery. Then came the Aztecs, flourishing in the heart of modern-day Mexico. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, was an architectural marvel, a city on a lake connected by a network of canals. The Aztecs were warriors and traders, their influence stretching far and wide, their markets buzzing with goods from every corner of their empire. Further south, the Incas rose in the rugged Andes Mountains. They were master builders, their stone walls fitting so perfectly together that not even a knife blade could slip between the stones. Their road network, stretching over 25,000 miles, connected a vast empire, facilitating trade, communication, and military movement. These civilizations were agricultural innovators, cultivating a diverse array of crops in challenging environments. From the terraced mountainsides of the Incas to the floating gardens of the Aztecs, they transformed the landscape to feed their growing populations. They each developed complex social structures with defined roles and hierarchies. Kings and priests, warriors and traders, farmers and artisans all had their place, all contributed to the functioning of these sophisticated societies. These civilizations were not isolated, but interconnected through trade, warfare, and cultural exchange. They learned from each other, built upon each other's achievements, and influenced each other in ways we are still discovering today. These civilizations left a lasting legacy on the American continent, but change was on the horizon. What would you do if strangers arrived at your shores claiming your land? This question was a stark reality for the indigenous peoples of the American continent in the late 15th century. The arrival of Europeans, led by the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus in 1492, would forever alter their world. Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, made his first landfall in the Bahamas, believing he had reached the East Indies. His voyage marked the beginning of sustained European contact with the Americas, a period known as the Age of Discovery. This era, however, was not one of discovery for everyone. For the indigenous peoples of the Americas, it was an era of unprecedented upheaval. The Europeans arrived with steel, horses, and a host of unfamiliar diseases. Smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which the indigenous peoples had no immunity, swept across the continent like wildfire, drastically reducing their populations. In some regions, up to 90% of the indigenous population perished due to these diseases alone. But disease wasn't the only challenge. The Europeans brought with them a desire for conquest and colonization. They established colonies, claiming vast tracts of land for their home countries. Warfare became a grim reality as indigenous peoples fought to defend their lands and way of life. Despite their resistance, many were subjugated, enslaved, or displaced. The cultural impact of the Europeans' arrival was profound. Indigenous traditions, languages, and belief systems came under pressure as the colonizers imposed their own. Yet, in the midst of upheaval, new forms of cultural expression emerged, blending indigenous and European elements. The arrival of Europeans was not a peaceful meeting of equals, but a collision of worlds. The repercussions of this encounter echo through the centuries, shaping the destiny of the American continent and its peoples. It marked the end of one era and the beginning of another, setting the stage for the creation of new nations. The arrival of Europeans marked a turning point in the history of the American continent, setting the stage for the creation of new nations. What does it take to build a nation from scratch? This, my friends, is a question that was answered in the Americas during the formation of modern nations. Let's begin with the United States. The spark of revolution ignited in the 13 colonies, leading to the Declaration of Independence in 1776. It was a bold statement, a daring rejection of British rule. The United States was born out of the crucible of war, a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Yet it wasn't smooth sailing from there. The fledgling nation was tested time and again, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement. Each challenge shaped the country, molding it into the diverse, dynamic powerhouse we see today. Moving south, we find a similar tale of struggle and triumph in Latin America. Inspired by the success of their northern neighbors, colonies across the region rose up against their European overlords. The wars of independence that swept through South America in the early 19th century were brutal and bloody, but ultimately successful. However, the formation of these new nations was not without its challenges. The indigenous peoples of the Americas, who had survived centuries of colonization and exploitation, found themselves marginalized in their own lands. They faced and continue to face an uphill battle for recognition and rights. But despite these challenges, the formation of modern nations in the Americas is a testament to the indomitable spirit of its people. From the United States to Argentina, from Canada to Chile, each nation has carved out its own unique identity, while remaining part of a larger, interconnected American story. The history of the American continent is a tale of resilience, innovation, and diversity, a story that continues to unfold. So, how has the history of the American continent shaped the world we live in today? From the dawn of history, through the rise of ancient civilizations, the arrival of Europeans, and the formation of modern nations, the American continent's history has profoundly influenced its societies and cultures. These historical events have shaped the rich tapestry of life that we see today, leaving an enduring legacy. The American continent's history is not just a story of the past, but a guide to understanding our present and shaping our future.